Hello, everybody, and hello, Pip. Hello, Emily. Thank you so much for being participating on the Strategist Revival, my podcast that I love to remember the things about things on planning, how to find insights, the best way to do a comms analysis and comms planning and things around that, but also how to use AI and how can AI not steal my job, but help me on that. So it's a pleasure to have you here, and I would love for you to introduce yourselves first and tell a little bit. Well, let's talk about springboards later, but first introduce yourself, please.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Amy. This is Pip. We have been in the advertising world or advertising industry for over 15 years each. So Pip and I both kind of started in media advertising agencies down in Australia, and then spent some time in the US, in San Francisco, where we kind of merged into creative agencies. And I was at 215 McCann, and Pip was at an independent agency called Cutwater there. And then we kind of made the leap into in-house teams. I was at Twitter, and Pip was at a Web3 company for a little while, and then into marketing roles in those companies. I went to Shopify, and Pip stayed at the Web3 company. And then here we are kind of today. We both got made redundant within 3 weeks of each other in 2022, I want to say, mid 2022. And we kind of had this beautiful opportunity to, spend our time doing some consulting work, paying the bills. And during that time, kind of AI was bubbling up and getting really interesting. So we were trying to figure out how to, selfishly use AI to make our work quicker and maybe, help us with some of those things that we all kind of are challenged with at times, like blank page syndrome. And kind of hacked the AI platforms for our own jobs and our own consultancy work. Pip then kind of, figured out how he could, code, and started playing around with some coding. And from there, we can tell you a little bit about what we're doing now, but ended up building some tools that essentially help accelerate the agency process utilizing AI technology.
That's great, great story. And then I've met Springboards, that is the business that you've created, because two of my old friends from colleagues, former colleagues from Meta, Liz Harper and KJ Vire, they used to work on as creative agents partners, as I used to do at Meta. So I saw that they represent in different regions Springboards.ai, and then I was checking, so what does this company does? And then I noticed that it's AI for planners. So could you tell a little bit about that? What is Springboards AI, and what's the difference between Springboards and ChatGPT, for example, that I still talk with ChatGPT a lot?
Yeah. So the main thing is that Springboards, we like to say it's like a idea or an insight accelerator. Effectively, what we've done is we have worked out how to jailbreak and reverse engineer language models and generative AI tools to, instead of give you the answer, give you inspiration. And we've created these tools around a traditional agency process, which goes from understanding a brand into developing insights, into doing desk research, into creative briefs, taglines, manifestos, comms planning, ideas, all the way through to executions if you want. But the whole point of Springboards is to not give you the answer, and it's to give you inspiration instead. So that's kind of what the tool is and what it does. And how it differs from the likes of a ChatGPT is that like I said, is we've done two things. We've taught these things how to think like a creative person with it built specifically for agencies. But two, as we get a little bit nerdy, we've played with the embedding space that language models send you to. So that rather than always trying to give you the exact same answer and trying to guess what you want, we try to spark ideas in your own head. So it's It's built on a range of different AI tools like OpenAI's models and Anthropic's and Mistral and Llama and Gemini and the rest of them. But we've had to work out how do we break them to a degree to give you like truly interesting stuff that can create like help spark ideas in your head.
And I had the chance to see it. You working on our last meeting, and so you showed to me, and I could use it a little bit as well. So you can not make just a one question, but you can bring information, of course, about your focus, the brand that you're working with, the objectives. And then with that content that you provide, you can find two different insights coming from Springboards, right? And then you analyze which one is not only better, but connects better with your thinking in that sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So the way that we think about it is we just want to help people go wide in their exploration of ideas, yeah. So we won't try to give you one insight or one idea. We'll give you 15. And you click start again, and you don't like anything, you get more and more and more and more and more. And the point of that is to allow you to explore more ideas and more territories than you ever could have before. And so it's not necessarily about speed, it's about exploration. So that you can start to look under every little rock to see where the interesting ideas might be. And the whole point of this thing is how do you just spark an idea in a person's head, not trying to give them the answer. So it's yeah, like there's a heap that you can do with it. There's different modes from microdosing to LSD to a silent mode if you really want to push it that far. So we've really kind of built it around creativity, not about like answers. How do we help inspire creativity, not help people find the answer? Whereas most AI tools focus on execution answers, we focus on creativity and thinking.
And I think the other nuance as well is a lot of, to Pip's point earlier, a lot of AI tools are kind of set up, or, how we're learning to play with them is that you plug in a question and it does give you kind of an answer, a very long one sometimes. And there's no editing that kind of happens in that process. And I think with the strategic process as a whole, it's all about the editor and the person that knows the brand or knows the consumer so well that can really take that insight or that idea and edit it to a point that is beautiful and sparks creativity or a creative thought. And I think that's why we have inherently created a platform and a UI UX that puts that person and that planner at the center of the user experience and the information that's kind of getting thrown at them so that they can edit it and make it beautiful. And that is the craft, right? That is the craft of being an excellent planner or an excellent creative is being able to hone in on something that is going to create something beautiful and good.
Yeah. Like it's kind of like the classic double diamond process. We just use our tools to help you go really, really wide. And then we throw it to the person, as Amy said, to strip all the bullshit out and find out what is that one thing that's super interesting, where I can ignore everything else and it's going to jump off into something that's really powerful and unique. So we will just help you go wide. And that's why we could never, ever, the way that we're designing AI is that you can never, ever replace people because we're designing it around them. Because to Amy's point is that it's the person who understands not just the brand and the audience, but what good work is, what's going to connect with other people and not just machines. And that's how you start to distill these things down into something that's really, really powerful. So like our tool is only ever as good as the person that's in control of it. And yeah, it's like, how do you design? I often say it's like a Terminator story. We're trying to design AI around people. We're like big old Arnie Schwarzenegger partnered up with whatever his name is in the movie, trying to fight all the shit AI out there in the world that is just trying to go click button, give me answer, click button, give me answer. That's what we're against, is lazy, boring, bland work. We want to put this in the hands of really great creative people who can come up with incredible ideas by not giving them the answer, but just giving them little nuggets of information that they go, oh, fuck, that's super interesting. Why didn't I think about that earlier?
And it's not the copy and paste from the idea that comes, right? It's like you think about what is coming, and then it's a provocation as well. Like what you gave to springboards and then the answers, and then it's a provocation to your brain to think about which one is the most connected. And then, of course, it's not copy and paste. How can I brighten this based on my knowledge on this client or consumer behavior or culture? I don't know, something around those points.
Yeah, exactly right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why would the creatives still want to talk to me and not only use springboards? And okay, the planner's here. So I just asked what's the strategy for this client, and it gave me insight. So let me use it.
Yeah, it's like I said, it doesn't. What I love about this tool is it definitely doesn't replace anyone. And what it does do though is that it can actually break down the walls of I'm a creative or I'm a strategist a little bit more. That's my favorite thing about the tool. And what it does is that like you put it in the hands of a great ad person. And like I've always said that the best creatives are naturally strategic and the best strategies are naturally creative. Yeah. And I think what this tool does is that if you are a creative, then if you want to go further upstream and play around with insights because you're not getting anything out of the brief that you've been given, then you can do that. You can go searching for other inspiration. But likewise, if you're a strategist and you want to stress test where your strategy might want to go, you can take it all the way through to execution and play around with what the type C idea is that might jump off this insight or this brief versus something else. So it kind of really breaks down those traditional barriers of this is your job, you do this one thing. Instead, you put it in the hands of great people who know what great work is. And really what you're asking them to do is be the judge of what's a good insight, what's a good idea, and what's the problem that we need to look at. Yeah, that's like rather than telling people, teaching them how to prompt and what a good idea is, you just throw a heap at them and you leave it to their own judgment to go, that's interesting, that's shit. Let's dial this up, let's go a little crazier. Maybe that's the wrong problem statement. Maybe we need to go down this path instead. That's what this thing's about. It's about exploring. And that's why it's fun. Like, yeah.
And first of all, start with the knowledge on the problem, right? What the problem is. So focus on that because then you can start the conversation with any AI if you want, but especially springboards to have the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know, like for me, being in an agency, there's, oftentimes where you're not just working on your own client, you're working on pitch work, right? And you have to do that out of hours or on the weekends or whatever, and the timelines are often really crunched. So it's another way that you can also be inspired and get to that thinking quicker, yes, but also takes some of this stress and the anxiety around like, oh my gosh, I've got 16 briefs on my table and they're all due tomorrow. How am I ever going to get there? It's like, okay, I'm not alone in this journey, and I can explore a bunch of different territories quite quickly, and then I can throw it out to, everyone else that's pitching on this client or is working on these briefs, and we can kind of all collaborate really quickly on it. So I think that's helpful too.
Yeah, when I used it for the first time just minutes after talking to you, I felt that I'm not alone, like that, like conversation in a way, because, I thought about this, is this the best way to do it? Or maybe if this is connected, and then Greg gave me insights and I said, oh, this one is better, but let me work on the top of that. Yeah. So it's like a conversation, and almost an internal conversation, but kind of with someone with more information, better information in terms of this conversation. And I thought that if I was working in an agency, I would keep asking about the culture inside, the company side, all those insights, but especially first start with the business problems, because that is with the client. First of all, let's start with the business problem, and then as a strategist, understand better what's the brand problem, the communication problem, what are we trying to solve, and then start this conversation with springboards would be amazing. And do you work with any agencies at the moment? Of course you do, but which agencies do you work, and how is the work that you do?
Yeah, there's about 100 agencies in the platform now around the world. A lot in Australia, across Europe, across the States, Singapore, New Zealand. They're kind of the main markets that we're active in. Primarily creative agencies, but also media agencies, PR, experiential. We've got one experiential agency on it, even though it's not really designed for them. We make it very, we don't name drop any agency. And the reason for for that is that it's not our place to say used by X, Y, and Z. We don't want to use agency names like badges on our website, like every other like type of AI business. It's none of our business who wants to communicate what tools they're using or not. Yeah. And that's why we don't do that. What I can say in saying that is that of those 100 agencies, we have agencies from some of the holdcos, but we're not really right for them, I don't think, at this point in time. It is primarily independent agencies, literally some of the biggest and well-known independent agencies of the last, 10 odd years, as well as some agencies that you would never have heard of. So it's a real mixed bag of like massive 1,000 people shops down to freelancers, down to everyone else. And weirdly enough, like freelancers are my favorite clients, or my favorite people to use the platform, because I think this tool in the hands of freelancers is really, really powerful because it allows them to stretch their own capabilities. That's what we were using it for originally. We were strategists who then went, oh shit, we know what good creative works. We've done the strategy. How can we expand and see where we can go? And my favorite quote from a freelancer in Amsterdam is, he said, I feel like with Springboards, I can take on any agency in the world. And like when we hear that stuff, we're like, oh, fuck, that's wild. That's kind of super, super cool, because he's someone who's really senior. He knows what great work is, but he doesn't have like the resources of a full agency and like 3 different creative teams to go explore everything. But now he can start exploring that on his own demand. So like, yeah, it's a real mixed bag of agencies, types of agencies, and the rest of it. And we're expanding the offering to go more after and be built more specifically for different types of agencies in the future. But right now, it's primarily creative shops.
And it's like a subscription, or do you work by each project? Like I'm doing one project, I'm doing one specific now. I use that for that moment, or do I have like a monthly subscription? How does that?
Yeah, it's a monthly subscription.
Yeah. At the moment, it's for agencies, it's monthly subscription by seat. So 1 seat is 1 person. We do have annual deals in place with agencies as well. But predominantly you can buy month to month, and then eventually when we kind of look to maybe open it up to freelancers, that will be something that they can self-serve essentially and go on and turn it on and off if they've got work on or not. So that will be a little bit more flexible.
Cool. And I when I was at Meta, I spent the last 3 years of my career over there, at least, but of my time over there, doing a lot of different things about the assets, about Reels, Stories, Instagram, but mainly talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion advertising, how to break the stereotypes, how to include more diverse, having more inclusion in advertising and things around that. And after that, I studied ESG. I keep thinking if I can have those points as well coming from Springboards. Like this is the challenge of the client, this is the business that we are dealing with, what do we want from the brand, but how can I bring the ESG to the conversation? Is just a prompt in a way, or how can I enhance that to create better impact, social and environmental impact on advertising using Springboards as well?
Yeah, we don't have anything built specifically for it. And part of the reason that is like ESG changes so much from client to client. But when you ask like ChatGPT ESG, it's got a very black and white answer of what it should be. So our point of view is that like this is why you don't want to replace great people. You don't want to replace someone for the final work. You don't want to go click button, get answer, because that's when you fall into all these traps and problems where you go, oh yeah, that's good enough, and people have their own biases and they may just overlook it. If you just go click answer, get it. So like by keeping people firmly, like great people in the firmly in control, you've got that filter through the person. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the best filter is always going to be in the hands of great people. Like we do have a riff bot built into the tool, so you can use chat like you if you'd want to any other way, but we don't build something specifically for it because I think the answers like AI and ESG issues have been pretty bad.
And there's also like that, the thing that comes with, the human spirit is kind of knowing what's going on right now in the world. And I used to work at Twitter, and we'd be putting work out into the world, and often, the day before a launch, something might happen out in the world in culture, that immediately you as the marketer would go, okay, it's not the right time for us to now put something out in the world because it doesn't make sense. And we'd have to pull stuff. And I think having, again, the person in control that is aware of what is happening right now in the world and what people are talking about, and having that cultural lens is paramount, because these AI tools look at the past. They don't know what's happening right now in the moment. And I've seen things happen very, very quickly, particularly with politics and all of that. So I think, again, it just kind of reinforces that whole planner, person at the center, human at the center of all of these technologies, is where the magic happens.
Yeah, that's perfect. And just thinking about that and to use it, so I could do the subscription from Latin and things around that, for sure. But could I get the information in different languages, in Portuguese and Spanish as well? How is it? Or
we actually have just rolled out a French version that we're trialing with a couple of French agencies. And so that's kind of the first language outside of English that we're rolling out. The test is going pretty well, and then we'll just roll that out across pretty much anything. So Spanish, German, Portuguese are kind of the next main ones as the focus. So yeah, I'd imagine before the end of the year would have that pretty much locked. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be there, which will do 80-90% of the heavy lifting. But like, as a natural Portuguese speaker or Spanish speaker, there'll still be little words that you go, that's a weird translation or a weird phrase, but it'll be enough to spark an idea still. You know what I mean? Like the concept and the territory and the space it's occupying will still make sense. The exact words might not be perfect, but that's the issue with using AI to translate. Is you get these, again, and it's why you don't want to go click button, give answer, because if you did, you would get those weird little things that would go out into the world. So that's how we're kind of thinking about it. But yeah, so effectively, you can go in and change it to French right now in the platform. You can also hack it in its current form, but that's a different thing altogether.
Yeah, and it's a privilege to talk to both of you, because I strongly believe on the extremely growth that you are going to have springboards around the globe, and especially here in Latin, that I have worked a lot over here, and now I work as well in UK as a strategist. But looking forward for the strategies over here to checking it and understanding how to use and using it to grab better, not only insights, but developing on the strategy and better conversations with themselves in each project, in each brief that they receive.
Yeah, I mean, it's for us as well. It's not even just about conversations with yourself or conversations with an AI. So the other thing that we've built and we've been very conscious of is, how do you build AI tools that are not behind the curtains? The way that most people use AI is they play with ChatGPT and they try to pass it off as their own work. And instead we're screw that, throw AI into the open. So we've built as part of this infinite canvas where you can play multiplayer. So I can get on and play with Amy and play with you, Rafa, and we can all play in one session. We can throw ideas onto this huge infinite canvas like a Miro board. And the point of that is to help spark conversations. Our belief, or my belief anyway, was always that the best briefs are not a piece of paper. The best briefs are a conversation. And it's when you're chatting with that person in your team and you start riffing off ideas together. And that's kind of some of the things that we've started to build into it. It's how do you bring in human collaboration and conversations? Because AI is just one area of inspiration. There's inspiration from people, from the outside world, from work that's come before. So we're trying to think how do you build all of these things into this big inspiration machine, just to have a bit of fun and bring a bit of fun back into what the work should be, because it should be a fun job. If it's not, and sometimes it's being dragged down by all the shit that we have to deal with and the tonnage of work that you have to get out, then there's a problem. So we actually think there's like a really interesting way to play with other humans. Yes, use AI to do that, but just in a slightly different way.
Well, thank you so much for your time to spend this time on this conversation with myself. And if you would like to give my monthly subscription, I would love to use each freelance opportunity that I have, that I'm
Yeah.
working. But I love to use it, and I really recommend for you guys, planners that are watching this now, it's very interesting to at least try and understand how that can help you to grow your strategy for the next campaign that you're using. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you so much for participating.
Thanks, mate.
Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Peace. Catch ya.